What's up, friends and family? My name is Will, and welcome to month number 3. Unfortunately, I'm not entirely certain on the actual week that we are talking about. Too much time has kind of passed since my previous videos. I'd have to do a little bit of math. I think it's around week number 14 or 15, but again, I'm not entirely certain. It would take me a little bit of math and kind of looking at things to figure it out. But as I'm about to go into it in this video, I've not really been focusing on that side of things. So maybe for next week's video, I'll have like a specific kind of week count for you again. But as of this video, I'm just going to say, welcome to month 3. So in light of last week's statement of I'm going to reveal a big kind of project I'm working on, I actually am going to follow through on that. I do have to say right here, right now, I kind of had happen what I expected to happen, and less got done than I thought it would by this week, but that's okay. I'm not going to stress about it. It's all going to take place in time, hopefully. But it's going to take me a little bit to fully get into what it is I'm doing, because I kind of want to give a little backstory first. So I'm going to go into that now, and then we're going to kind of transition away and eventually kind of reveal the big surprise. Okay, so about 3 weeks ago, I really started kind of pulling away from everything I was doing. Reality is as I said in last week's video, I think it was around 3 to 4 weeks ago, but this 3-week mark from today's video is really kind of where I started actually kind of getting introspective about things. It happens to the best and the worst of us at all moments of life. And really, I started really kind of like dividing up my life and saying, what is it I like? What is it I don't like? I am going to say right here, right now, with pure confidence, none of this was about disliking any part of my life as it is right now, nor looking back at previous parts of my life and saying, that's better. It's always easier to have regrets than to just learn from those, move on, and try to take the positive moments of those and kind of adapt it to your life here and now. So that's kind of the things that I started doing, is really kind of dissecting parts of my life that I have appreciated in the past or appreciate now and say, if I was to achieve the ideal, what would that look like? And that's a very, very hard question to answer with a solid answer like right away of where would I like to live and what would I like to be doing and etc. From there. There's so many different facets to that simple question of what is my ideal life that it's a really hard question to answer without some kind of breakdown of your life. I'm not going to necessarily go into that here. That's maybe a little too much information to really dive into here in a short amount of time. But basically, some of the big things that I was assessing is, okay, where would I like to live? What would I like to be doing? Kind of like, what do I want my life to look like 10 years from now? And of course, 10 years from now, it's a hard thing to plan for, and there's a lot of curveballs in life to adjust around. But to basically answer the first main question of, well, where would I like to live? I really started kind of breaking down, well, what are my favorite parts of different places? And what are my favorite things in life? I do personally really appreciate seasons, for an example. And living back home in Florida, I would get a lot less of those. That is not to say that I wouldn't want to live in Florida again at some point in the future. But as of this kind of mental breakdown, it was just kind of a, yeah, so that doesn't necessarily contain those. But on the other end of the spectrum, Florida is fantastic because that's where family is and that's where a load of friends are. And I don't want to just say goodbye to Florida. So how could I live in Florida and somewhere else? So talking about ideals here, it would be great to be able to live in Florida as well as travel, or maybe live somewhere else and travel back to Florida with a decent level of freedom there. So having that in mind, I kind of started breaking down, okay, what are my favorite seasons? What are my favorite things to see about the countries I've lived in, etc., etc. And I really kind of broke it down to one solid fact. And I really kind of realized that coming home from work one night. See, where I work, it's kind of in a higher altitude than the city around it. I'll kind of just leave it on a vague description as that, but it's higher than the city around it. So when I leave work every single day, depending on the route I decide to take home, I get a fantastic view of the city, or I guess really kind of the town around me. And I love that. That is fantastic. It's one of my favorite views of all time, but not specifically that view, but maybe other views. I know, I think I mentioned it in a video previous. I know I had kind of a mock-up video about Tokyo Tower at one point. Don't know if I actually ever ended up posting that, but I really kind of in that video described why I really love Tokyo Tower. And one of the big things is because of its high altitude. You just get to overlook so much of the city. You get to see it all, take it all in. It speaks to me. It's hard to explain beyond that. It's just one of those things that, I don't know, if you prefer the country, you're not going to understand that. If you prefer the city, that may be something that you can relate to. But living in a city with that kind of view is not easy to come by. So of course it's easy to say, well, in the ideal, I will have plenty of money and I can just buy a penthouse apartment, live there and travel, yada, yada, yada. But we got to keep our ideals kind of level-headed and realistic as well. But it's still something to keep in mind of, man, these are my favorite places in life. Most of them are cities. I'd love to live in one of these cities, particularly with a view that's just amazing, at least by my standards, or have decent access to a place that is. I would love something around that. But at the same point, I want to be able to go home and see family, or maybe live close enough to home to see family. But I don't really know what that all necessarily looks like. Again, this is just kind of a mock-up of the ideal. It's not a very clear set, this is where I want to live. I want to live on this floor of this building and blah, 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 blah. Life is just way too unpredictable for that. So basically with that in mind of, oh man, I'd kind of like to live in this environment, I went out from there and said, okay, so assuming I have my dream home, dream location, what do I want to see from there? Well, the next big thing is kind of dream job, because you're probably going to be spending most of your life at your job. Your job is going to take up most of your time anyways. So if you don't like your job, you don't like what you're doing. Now, I very much enjoy what I'm doing here, and I've enjoyed many jobs that I've done in the past, but they're all for different reasons and purposes. And sure, once again, I could have broken down those and said, okay, these are the things I like about this job, and these are the things I like about this job. Oh, I don't like that, or I don't like that, and try to pick a job that fits around that. But I might be still early enough, but a little too late in life to really kind of make those big decisions. But there is an area that really speaks to me that I want to invest in, at very least at this point, as a hobby. And this is going to be eventually connecting to the big reveal. But for now, I'm going to kind of, once again, leave it at that vagueness. So I really started kind of breaking down, okay, what is it I like about that job, and what is it I foresee that I will not like about that job, and how can I kind of address those things? My big thing was that, okay, I want to do that, but I don't necessarily, at least for the time being, want to plan around that being my focused profession, because I won't like it as much. If it's my one of my favorite hobbies ever, then making it into my job is going to make me have a disdain for it, which I just obviously don't want to have. I want to enjoy what I'm doing here the entire time. So with that in mind, I decided, well, if that's the hobby that I want to invest in and actually use as kind of a potential side set of income, then it's not that far out of my abilities. I just have to find the right way to tackle it. I've gotten pretty far in this process before, but certain roadblocks have stopped me in the way. And frankly, in this moment right here, right now, I'm very thankful for that, because I'm kind of going back and reassessing the stuff that I did then and really kind of reworking my kind of vision towards it and towards the future. This is kind of where more of that set planning has really started to take place, but I have to be, once again, open for kind of flexibility just in case it happens. But as you'll see soon, it's kind of all in my hands. So like, if I decide for this amount of time, things are going to go this way and I don't diverge from it, not a lot of other people are necessarily going to be affected by it. But so those were the two major things that I really kind of broke down to see like what it is I want to be doing, and that kind of led me to this thought process. And specifically for the last 2 weeks, maybe going on to actually the 3 weeks now, I've been really pouring my dedication and my energy and kind of my time off into this. I've had a couple off days recently. First week that I was on it, it was just nonstop go, 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 and started wearing me out. And I'm kind of realized after a little bit that it was kind of like coming home from a job to work another job, or starting the day with a job and then going to my other job. And at the end of the day, I was just so exhausted, and I had other things I kind of wanted to do to kind of like ease some of that tension starting to build up. So I kind of took a break then, and ever since then I've really kind of slowed down a little bit in the process, but I'm hoping to kind of pick it up again. But I've definitely kind of faced some roadblocks around the way. But I figured it's about time to kind of ease the anticipation around this, if there actually is any, and really kind of reveal what it is that I'm working on. So without further ado, I'm writing a book. Yes, so this might not come as a big surprise to some people, specifically family members. They know that I've been doing this off and on for the last couple of years, frankly, probably since I was very young. So I've been doing this off and on for a while, and in fact, some friends may even know this, but I will say it's still a bit too early in the process to be certain that like this is going to be on the shelves here, then where, when. So I really just kind of want to put it out there of this is what I'm doing. I'm probably going to have a couple videos kind of going into the process of this is where I'm at with this, and this is kind of some of the things that it looks like, and yada, 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 kind of go into some of the facets there, gives me something additional to talk about. But it's just something that has always been kind of near and dear to me, is this writing process. I've always gotten like a certain distance in the writing process and then just stopped. Maybe I moved on to a new story. Maybe I just got bored of it. Maybe I just ran into such severe writer's block, or just got so tired of it that I just couldn't continue. But this time around, I basically decided I'm going to take one of my old stories, one of my favorite things that I've ever written, and revise it. Not edit it, not just kind of rework it a little bit, but completely revise it. So it's still the same kind of structure, backbone, kind of same story, but certain major things are changed, like characters might behave a little differently. I think the main antagonist at the end is completely different, and it frankly is just working so much better than how it previously did, because I started really assessing that original story, and with kind of my plan ahead of how I want my books to kind of work together, I realized that things just didn't line up. Things didn't just support one another. And a lot of the inspiration of kind of book linking that I've gleaned is from like the MCU, the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So basically Marvel movies, saying it 3 different ways for potential 3 different audiences who may not know exactly what I'm talking about. So I really kind of have looked at that in not just recent days, but really in like previous years, and just saw, so these movies support each other in these ways. They can stand alone, sure, and maybe series can stand alone together, but they also can all connect at the end. And that's something I want to create as well. I have a whole sprawling world kind of in my head of all this lore and these characters and these stories that I feel like it's about time to really start working on and trying to get out there. I think I'm old enough now and specifically have enough experience with writing that I really kind of can see more so the bigger picture of how things connect together, but yet can also remain on their own, which is again how I kind of want my books to kind of feel as I feel with certain Marvel movies. But that's still such a long way off before I can ever try to like figure out, oh, how should these books connect and should they meet up and yada, yada, yada. I have to really kind of assess, can I even publish one book? Can I even get one book out there? If I can get one book out there, that's the first major step. So I'm really kind of right now thinking through my strategy for that. I'm thinking I am going to self-publish. I think it's going to be the easiest thing, as well as it offers me a certain level of freedom. Once I get with a publishing company, I'm not, again, since I've never done it, I'm not experienced enough to say how it's really going to be, but I don't want to be put into boxes. I don't want to be told, oh, don't do that, don't do this. I want to have my own personal freedom. And eventually down the line, hopefully, if people are reading my stuff, I want to be able to incorporate things that they like. I want to have the freedom to write what I want to write in what timing I want to write and not be facing all these deadlines. And I think knowing myself personally, that will be actually a lot better for me. It will eventually, potentially, start feeling a little bit more like work and a little less like pleasure. Already, I've kind of had some days like that. But that's the nice thing about taking it on my own time. If I write a book in a day, fantastic. If I take half a year to write a book, that's okay. I want to have the freedom to kind of make those decisions myself. But so that's kind of the big reveal, is I'm writing this. I'm hoping to have it kind of finalized this year, but I understand that that time window is really starting to cut down. The rewriting process of the book is probably about 60-70% of the way done, but that is not including kind of a once over after that of kind of a reading, listening, editing. I have kind of a process in place of how I want to do that. So I really still have a decent amount of work left. I gotta get it published in the first place. I gotta get it finalized for publishing. I have to get the art, the cover art for the book. So, needless to say, there's still a lot of work to be done in it, but I really want to kind of get this exciting news out there because I believe it might actually incentivize me to kind of keep pushing forward with it. But we'll see. I may just drop off the face of the planet again tomorrow and never again touch writing in my life, but I'm really hoping that won't happen, and I'm really hoping that this video, for whatever views that it gets, provides kind of an exciting look ahead into the future. But so there's that, and I'm going to kind of leave it off there with that kind of exciting reveal, a little look into how it's going and what's going on with it. But without further ado, thank y'all for watching. Friends, family, thank y'all for returning, and I'll see y'all next week.